The school had been empty for hours. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly above the abandoned classrooms, a low, persistent hum in the otherwise dead silence. For years, Mrs. Kendo had stayed late like this. It was her routine, tidying, filing, grading papers under the pale, artificial glow. But tonight felt different. The quiet wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. It pressed in on her from all sides, thick and uneasy. The shadows in the hallways seemed to stretch and sharpen, darker and more defined than usual. She finished stacking the last pile of worksheets and picked them up. As she carried them toward the staff room, the sharp click of her shoes against the polished floor was the only sound. It echoed unnaturally in the vast emptiness. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the large classroom windows, making the shadows on the walls twist and dance like distorted figures. And that's when she heard it. The first faint whisper. "Mrs. Kendall." She froze, her hand tightening on the stack of papers. The voice was soft, almost tender, like a child trying to call out without waking anyone. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She strained her ears, listening, every nerve on edge. The long, dark hallway was completely empty. Nothing. It was just the wind, she told herself. A draft whistling through an old building. A trick of the mind in an empty space. But then, just seconds later, it came again. Closer this time. Clearer, Mrs. Kendall. A cold dread seeped into her stomach. This voice was too deliberate, too knowing. It wasn't the wind. She needed air, thinking the open space might calm her rattling nerves. She pushed open the heavy side door and stepped out onto the playground. The night air was crisp and cold. The swings swayed gently in the breeze, their chains groaning a rhythmic, mournful song. She knew for a fact no one had touched them for hours. Then the faint whispering started to multiply. It grew into a collection of murmurs, voices overlapping and layering on top of each other. Soft, childish laughter. The sound of quiet, muffled sobs. Names being called out into the darkness. She recognized some of them. Children she hadn't seen in decades, their voices impossibly clear in the empty night. Her breath caught in her throat. She scanned the perimeter of the playground, her eyes darting from the darkened street lights to the fence line. Nothing. The moonlight cast a pale, silver glow over everything, revealing the worn jungle gym, the slide, the sandbox, still, silent and untouched. But the voices didn't stop. They seemed to circle her now, echoing from the empty swings, from the cold metal of the climbing bars, from the cracked asphalt beneath her feet. "Look at me," one voice pleaded. "Over here," whispered another. Mrs. Kendall's fingers trembled as she gripped the cold railing of the steps leading back into the school. Her rational mind scrambled for an explanation. It had to be students, hiding after hours, playing a cruel prank. Or maybe some teenagers from the neighborhood. It could even be her own imagination, overworked and overtired. But deep down, in a place beyond reason, she knew this wasn't normal. The whispers grew more urgent, more insistent. It was a chorus of children speaking all at once, their voices overlapping in a dizzying, chaotic wave. They called her name over and over, and then they started describing things only she could possibly know. Her favorite hairpin, The one with the little pearl she was wearing right now. The faded blue scarf she'd left draped over her chair. The peculiar way she always double-knotted her shoelaces. Panic, cold and sharp, rose in her chest. She had to get out. She turned and ran back inside, slamming the heavy door and fumbling with the lock until she heard it click shut. She leaned against it, her breath coming in short, ragged gasps. She reached for the light switch, flicking it on and off. But the hallway lights just flickered and shivered, as if the building itself were trembling with a life of its own. And from the classrooms on either side of her, she heard it. The soft patter of tiny footsteps, irregular, uncoordinated, like small children tiptoeing on the linoleum floors. The whispers followed her, no longer outside, but in here with her. They bounced off the walls, sometimes soft and distant, then suddenly loud and intimate, as if whispered directly into her ear. They were mocking her now. She stumbled down the hall, desperate to find a place to hide. The storage room at the far end. She threw the door open and rushed inside, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. Dust motes danced in the thin beams of moonlight, filtering through a grimy window. She pushed past old desks and broken chairs, the air thick with the smell of dust and decay. That's when she saw them. Tucked away on a high shelf she had never used was a neat stack of old, faded photographs. Her hand shook as she reached up and picked one from the top. It was a picture of this very playground, taken decades ago. The children in the photo were all smiling, frozen in a moment of joy. But as she looked closer, a horrifying recognition washed over her. She knew some of these faces. Some of them were no longer alive. Children who had died in tragic accidents, long forgotten by most. And just like that, the whispering stopped. A profound and cold silence fell over the room, heavier and more suffocating than before. Then she heard one voice, a single, clear whisper from just behind her, impossibly close. "Will you play with us?" She spun around. A scream caught in her throat. The storage room was empty. There was no one there. Her breath came in ragged, panicked gasps. She backed away slowly, her eyes wide, until her shoulder hit something solid behind her. She froze, every muscle tensing. It was a swing, a small, rusted swing set, standing right in the center of the room. It moved slightly back and forth, though there was no breeze in the stuffy room, no one there to push it, and from it a chorus of tiny, ghastly laughter erupted, echoing the voices she had heard on the playground, the voices of children who should not exist. The single light bulb in the ceiling flickered once, twice, and then went out, plunging her into near-to-tell darkness. She blinked, her eyes struggling to adjust. When she could see again, the photographs were gone from the shelf. Only the swing remained, and from the deep shadows beneath it, she could hear the faintest whisper calling her name one last time. Mrs. Kendall. And this time she didn't run.